Global crisis and self-realization, a call of humanity through the vision of Ashtavakra Gita. The modern world stands at a peculiar crossroads. Never before has humanity possessed such as the technological brilliance, such as the medical advancement, such as instantaneous connectivity, yet never before has it fell a inwardly fractured. Wars range in the name of security, economics expand while anxiety deepen, information multiple while wisdom recede. Beneath every visible crisis, a political instability, ecological devastation, ideological polarization, mental health epidemics, there lies in a invisible error. Misidentification, we have mistaken the tangent for the ultimate, the role for the self, appearances for the reality. Ancient vision, the Ashtavakra Gita offers not a political program but a radical shift consciousness. It invites humanity to rediscover its identity of the Chinmatra, pure awareness, and thereby dissolve the physiological roots of the global unrest. At the heart of global conflict lies in the subtle, relentless movement of Hay and Upadhyay, rejection and acquisition. Nations accumulate weapons to secure themselves against the perceived threats. Individuals accumulate wealth to secure themselves against the perceived lack. Communities defend identifies against unimagined ensures the constant movement of grasping and discarding generate friction at every level of existence. We have made the life a battlefield of the frictions, yet one inquires deeply who is the one that grabs, who is the one of the fear loss. When identify identity is confined to body and ideology, the other becomes a threat. But when identity shifts to pure consciousness, the same awareness shining through every being, the foundation of hostility collapses, the perception of separation weakens, and with it the compulsion toward violence. Consumerism represent another manifestation of the misidentification. Modern civilization equate fulfillment with possession, that marketplace thrive on cultivating dissatisfaction. Every advertisement whispers the same metaphysical lie. You are incomplete, therefore acquired, but incompleteness belong to the egoic construct, not the consciousness itself. The joy derived from acquisition is fleeting because it addresses a false premise. The self being whole cannot be completed by object. When individual rediscover inner sufficiency, consumption becomes the functional rather than compulsion. The economic shift from the exploitation to sustainability, contentment rather than accumulation before the measures of success. The ecological crisis is perhaps the most tangible symptom of the inner alienation. Humanity has treated the earth as a external resources rather than as an expression of the same living totality. Forests are razed, ocean has polluted, species are extinguished, all under the illusion of separateness. Consciousness centered vision teaches that the observer are not ultimately divided when one perceives the world as a manifestation within the awareness rather than as an object to dominate. Exploitation transforms into reverence. Environment stewardship arises naturally from the non-dual understanding. Compassion ceases to the moral obligation and become existence clarity. The epidemic of mental distress further illustrates that the cost of misidentification. Anxiety, depression, and chronic stress proliferate because the individual cling to thought as though they were ultimate truth. Yet thought are transit movement in awareness, not the essence of identity. When one learn to observe mental fluctuation without merging with them, physiological space open. This witness does not deny emotion; it contextualized it. Just a cloud do not stain the sky. Sorrow does not stain consciousness. Recognize this distinction can fundamentally transform approaches to the mental health. Therapy may address narrative, but self-realization address the narrator. The digital age identifies the challenges. Virtual reality, curated identify algorithm, echo chambers, these constitute a modern Indrazal, a technological illusion whose immersive that is redefined self-worth. Individual measures their values by metric of visibility. Validation becomes quantified. Yet the awareness that perceived a screen remains untouched by the contents. When it's understood, technology becomes a tool rather than tyrant. Consciousness engagement replaces compulsive scrolling. Attention is reclaimed as scared currency. Division across the lines of race, religion, and nation persists because the identity is externally anchored. Ideological construct boundaries, consciousness dissolve them. A non-dual insight does not erase cultural distinction but prevent them the hardening into hostility. Unity does not require uniformity. It requires recognizing that diversity unfold within a shared field of being. When the become experiment rather than the conceptual, dialogue replaces domination. Global unity ceases to the slogan become a lived perception. Power structure throughout the history have demonstration, fragility, injury, authority. Empires rise and fall. Leaders exalt themselves and vanish. The illusion of preeminence seduce those who wield controlled. Yet, from the vantage of pure awareness, power is ephemeral. Recognize that does not paralyze. Governance is humble. It leadership rooted in the self-knowledge operate from the service rather than the insecurity. Authority become the stewardship rather than the possession. The fear of death remains one of the humanity's most profound anxieties. Pandemic global uncertainties magnify this fear. Identification with the body inevitably produces the dread for the body is finite. But if one essential nature is awareness, the witness is bodily state, then death appears as a transformation rather than the annihilation. This insight does not the trivialized grief, it contextualized morality. Fear recedes, then identifies shift from the perishable to the perishable. Desires to demand re-examination. Modern economics depend upon the stimulating endless wants, yet desire without the awareness become the addiction. To be free from the compulsive carving does not imply inertia. It implies clarity regarding what truly fulfills. When inner completeness it's recognized, action becomes the expression rather than the pursuit. Creativity flourishes without the burden of self validation. Cooperation replaces rivalry because worth is no longer comparative. Critics may many interpret such the teaching as the escapism. On the contrary, it is the most radical form of engagement. Transforming consciousness alters the substratum from which action arises. Policies addresses symptom, perception addresses cause. Without inner clarity, even noble reform reproduce conflict. With inner clarity, ordinary action radiate harmony. Humanity therefore stand before the subtle yet decisive invitation. The crisis we confront are mirror reflecting our own fragmentation. External changes without internal awakening remain incompleteness. The recognition of the oneself as pure awareness does not require withdrawal from society. It requires vigilance within it. It calls for a inward revolution. Imagine a civilization in which individuals no longer define themselves primarily by acquisition, ideology, or the fear. Imagine economics guided by sufficiency rather than greed. Imagine education that includes self-inquiry alongside information. Imagine leadership informed humanity born of self-knowledge, such as the transformation is run neither utopian nor the immediate, but it began with a single shift or in identification. The call then is a simple yet profound become the witness, observe without the changing, cleansing, act without possessiveness, engage without hostility, recognize that the same consciousness annihilate all being. When the humanity rediscovers this truth, global crisis will no longer appear as the isolated catastrophe, but as the symptom of a deeper forgetfulness, one that can be healed only by through the remembrance. The stage of history will continue to host its dramas. Technology will evolve, society will transform, but the luminous awareness in which all these unfold remains unchanged. To abide as the awareness is not a withdrawal, it is a freedom within a participation. This is the ultimate solution. The global unrest is not a merely diplomatic negotiation, economic reform, or a technology innovation. Through all these places in the awakening consciousness itself. When the illusion of separateness dissolves, violence loses its rational, greed loses its urgency, fear loses its dominance. The invitation is stand before the humanity rediscover the self, and doing so, rediscover the world not as the battlefield or a marketplace alone, but as a shared expression of one indivisible reality, one indivisible reality, expression of one divisible reality. Thank you.